All right, thank you all. A very good afternoon to you all. We will begin with our next session, which is by Reserve Bank of Fiji, Mrs. Caroline Wangabada. Can we have a round of applause for Mrs. Caroline, please? I just need this go out of the way. I need to use this. Can I use this? Yeah. Okay. Very good afternoon to you all, and thank you, Jessica, for the invitation to speak here this afternoon. As Jessica's mentioned, I'm Caroline, and I'm in charge of financial system development that does work in the bank that relates to SMEs. So warm greetings from the Reserve Bank, and we'd like to commend the USP for the vision for this year's event to promote and support entrepreneurship. And we acknowledge that the impact of this on the livelihoods of our people and the economy. We all know that this sector plays a pivotal role in the economy through its contribution to improving productivity, creating employment, raising incomes, and potentially standards of living of many of us, families, and also communities. But I thought to just start off this presentation, about 20 minutes long, with some facts that we have on SMEs. So we have definition that's provided by the ministry on what an SME is. We have a framework in place that categorizes SME by their turnover. And micro enterprises are defined as those that have turnover under 50,000. Small enterprises range from between 50 to 300,000, while medium enterprises are those with turnover in excess of between 300,000 and below $1.2 million. So what else do we know about SMEs in Fiji? We resorted to a study by the Market Development Facility, or MDF for short, in 2018, that examined the current MSME landscape in Fiji. And the report highlighted that there were around 24,486 formal MSMEs. However, this report, as you would guess, excludes a huge number of MSMEs that are out there in the informal sector. Based on estimates by the report, MSMEs contribute around 18% of the GDP. That's a sizable ratio, and about 60% to employment. And it also found out that about 50% of MSMEs were woman-owned. So, women are quite prevalent in this space. In recent years, you would believe that these figures would have increased, And later on this year, we're expecting to revise our GDP estimates. It's an exercise that the Bureau of Stats conduct to rebase the GDP based on how the structure of the economy has shifted. So right now, for example, we have a big part of our economy is services oriented. So that exercise will determine whether, tourism is still still remains as a large share of the economy, or it has shifted. So it'll show us, interestingly, how the MSME sector has grown in importance relative to total GDP, or relative to the whole economy. Based on the data reported by institutions that the RBF regulates, which includes banks, credit institutions, and the Fiji Development Bank, MSMEs account for about around 1 billion of outstanding loans at the end of 2022. So a key point to note regarding MSMEs is the lack of reliable data. We try our best to source data from microfinance institutions as best we can, but a lot of this data is solicited on a voluntary basis. But because we don't have a formal framework of yet of reporting, nor do we have legislation in place, and these are the challenges that we face, or things that we ought to make an effort to overcome. So while various agencies have attempted to map the entire MSME landscape, there remains challenges in collecting and making reliable estimates of the exact size of this sector. Who are the institutions that lend to MSMEs for the financial sector, which the Reserve Bank supervises? MSMEs are important because they borrow from both regulated institutions and also unregulated ones. Under our regulatory purview, or in our space, we have 6 commercial banks, 4 credit institutions, and a development bank. And there are also unregulated institutions that offer credit. These include SPBD. Some of you may know they're quite dominant in this space. We have FCOS and other local cooperatives that also play an essential role in providing finance to its members. So according to data by regulated institutions, we collect this at the Reserve Bank. There has been a general pickup in lending to SMEs. You can see from the middle of last year. So this is lending to lending by all commercial banks, licensed credit institutions like merchant finance, credit corp, and FDB in total. As of December last year, there was approximately 16,600 loans granted to MSMEs with an outstanding value of just over $1.2 billion. And of this, about 19% were disbursed by banks. Sorry, of this, the majority, over 70%, is disbursed by banks, with about equal share that's disbursed by credit institutions and the development bank. The peak that you can see in 2021, that was due to COVID. So these figures also include the loans that we give from the Reserve Bank to businesses that the banks lend to. So there was a sharp increase after COVID. They needed assistance, so we gave loans and subsidized the interest rates to banks, and then banks on lend these loans to their customers. So since end of 21, beginning of 22, these loans have subsided. In terms of sectoral classification, we were able to just pull out sectoral classification for banks and for 2022, and you can see where the majority of MSME loans from banks are going to. You can see real estate, also wholesale, retail, and transport and storage, and some building and construction. And the value of all lending to banks, by banks to MSMEs are around 860 million. So I had mentioned that the majority of loans to MSMEs are provided by commercial banks. So while lending data shows the growing importance of MSMEs, so we see like a general, pickup. The economy, of course, is still recovering, so we don't expect to see any sharp increase in loans to, MSMEs and to other businesses as well. And the figures show, there's a general pickup, and it also shows the huge potential. But this still masks the fact that there's a lot of challenges faced by MSMEs. And one of these challenges is access to credit, as the chart shows. So many MSMEs have unmet needs for working capital, to manage their cash flows, to buy assets, and also to build infrastructure. And this 2018 MDF study showed that there was approximately 2.8 billion in total demand for formal finance, and only 19% was met by the supply of finance available, leaving a finance gap of about $2.2 billion. The study further showed that businesses with a revenue of up to 2,000, so on the left of the chart, are able to access finance from banks. For those with revenue up to 2,000, which are usually small home-based businesses, normally financed by MFIs or microfinance institutions like our SPBDs and other semi-formal financial institutions. On the other hand, on the upper side of that chart, the large corporates or enterprises that earn above 250,000 are able to access finance from banks and formal intermediaries. However, there is a missing middle, and that's where a lot of our MSMEs fall under. And these comprise businesses that fall between the two extremes, that cannot easily access finance, and they are unable to, accrue working capital to start their business, etc. So it's a big reveal. I think it's not really surprising. Some of you may be MSMEs yourself. So this is what the stats say. That's still an access to finance problem for a lot of our MSMEs. So why is access to finance difficult from the demand side? This has continued to be a pain point for a lot of small business. This study shows that there are a few key impediments that contribute to this issue. One is the lack of adequate collateral and proper bookkeeping, which are among key requirements that financial institutions or banks, they impose in us applying for loans. Majority of small businesses are tiny home-based businesses with limited knowledge in proper bookkeeping. The tedious process and long turnaround time for access to loans and the perception that banks do not actively want to service MSMEs because of some previous bad experience are also among key impediments for access to finance. There's also the lack of awareness of support programs by small businesses these programs that are available to them. We administer a government loan guarantee scheme, and we note that there's still a lot of people out there that have no idea what the Reserve Bank is offering. And these are information that a lot of small businesses should already have. Some small business are just risk averse, and they are comfortable with their current status. So they do not want to access additional finance for fear that they might not be able to pay back their debt. And others have the perception that maybe accessing additional finance might open the door for external agencies, influence or interference in their business. On the supply side, why is access to finance difficult? This chart shows that the total credit gap that exists on a global scale. Although a little outdated, the chart highlights that the share of SMEs that are unserved or underserved by financial systems differ greatly across countries. And you can see the map there, the maps of different regions across the globe. So they differ across countries and also within each region. The darker shades of green are countries where SMEs have less access to financing. And on the far right graph, we see that for the Asia-Pacific region, around 92 million of MSMEs are excluded by the formal financial sector. This chart shows there are three main supply-side barriers to access finance. One on the left side is size. MSMEs are small, and banks often prefer large firms who offer them economies of scale, while small firms do not. As a result, banks often consider MSME business too costly. SME or MSME lending requires more staff to disburse smaller loans compared to loans to large corporations. Furthermore, banks also need to spend additional resources to provide their staff with the necessary skills and knowledge to deal with MSME lending. Another defining feature is the lack of internal funding. Many small businesses are established using personal savings and money provided by family and friends. This pool of resources is often very limited. Larger companies usually look for internal funds to finance their investments before turning to external financing. So they have the money. For small businesses, these internal resources are either non-existent or very small. And a third key barrier to access to finance is the information asymmetry. Small businesses are unable to provide sufficient, accurate, and reliable information to a financial institution or bank. They typically cannot provide transparent and audited financial statements that banks require. And this creates informational asymmetry where banks do not trust the information they have enough to be able to conduct a financial analysis and make decisions. And this issue of informational asymmetry is further aggravated if an SME operates in the informal sector. So for the Reserve Bank, what are some of our strategies, or why does MSME matter to us? We are committed to doing what we can to grow the MSME sector. As such, we have MSME targets that are included in our key strategic and development plan. So first, on the left is our RBF strategic plan from 2019-24. And under that, we aim to improve our collaboration with government to strengthen MSMEs, which will further develop the financial system. A more developed and stronger financial sector is key to ensuring macroeconomic and financial stability in the economy that would improve the effectiveness of our role in the economy. Second is our National Financial Inclusion Strategy for 22 to 2030, which aims to empower Fijians to build resilient and sustainable livelihoods and businesses by providing access to and encouraging the use of formal financial services to all Fijians. One of the four pillars under this strategy is MSME finance, to support the growth of small business by providing access to financial services and business development support. And under this MSME pillar, we have strategic actions that one is to develop an enabling regulatory framework for MSMEs, establish a specialized institution for MSMEs, also develop financing, value chain financing programs and initiatives, and also developing suitable products for MSMEs. The third column is actually the national 5-year and 20-year national development plan for the nation. And under that, we aim to promote entrepreneurial culture through sustainable micro, small, and medium enterprises. And also, the fourth column is we work with a global body called Alliance of Financial Inclusion, or AFI. This is a network of central banks, financial regulators, and finance ministries to collectively generate and share knowledge for evidence-based policymaking in order to address key gaps in financial inclusion, of which the MSME sector is a key priority. And under the RFI, we are part of the Maya Declaration, which is our commitment to develop a framework for measuring SME contribution to GDP by 2025 and to report on baseline indicators. So I mentioned that we're eagerly awaiting the rebasing of the GDP to see how much the SME sector contributes to the economy. And lastly, on the far right, ultimately, all our policies and programs within the development of the MSME space are expected to positively contribute to the achievement of 6 UN Sustainable Development Goals that are listed. So coming towards the end, what are some of the initiatives that we have at the bank in relation to this sector in support of MSMEs? We are working, we have formulated some policies, and we continue to work on more initiatives that endeavor to give small businesses a fair shot in the market and also support and aid their development. And these include, on the left, we have a disaster rehabilitation containment facility. I mentioned earlier that we were providing loans to MSMEs during COVID. So the government, after COVID, put in place a 200 million government guarantee facility that we administer at the bank. So small businesses, as identified according to their turnover, can borrow from the bank at up to 3.99% through their banks. And with that, they get a 2-year interest rate subsidy. So for first 2 years of the 5-year term loan, they do not get to pay interest, which is paid by a government. So that's the DRCF facility. In 2016, we also reformed to improve secure transactions with the assistance of ADB. We developed this establishment of a personal property securities registry, which allows the use of movable assets for lending by financial institutions. We also administer a separate MSME credit guarantee scheme. So these are loans that are given by the banks, and the banks can register small business for this guarantee with the Reserve Bank. So if the loans are not being able to be paid, so the banks can claim up to 90% of the amount outstanding from the Reserve Bank, and the funds for this are also provided by government. So that's another credit guarantee scheme that's available to small business. And in 2021, we also launched a e-commerce subsidy scheme for small business designed to support MSMEs that sign up as merchants on Vodafone's VT card. So those that sign up on the VT card scheme are paid their subscription from the Reserve Bank. So we work with Vodafone to support those businesses. Also, we have a policy that requires commercial banks to report on financial inclusion disaggregated data. It's really difficult to get data in Fiji on age, gender, location. So we've put this in place. We're still working on it, so we can get a good time series that shows us the trend of lending to women, in a certain location. And this data is important to show how much inclusion, or how far is our lending going to include the youth, include women in different locations. So it's really useful data, but as always, takes some time to establish and get going. And also, we also issued a minimum requirements on banks to establish internal microfinance division and units. This was way back in 2009, and this is how the whole focus by the bank shifted, towards microfinance. So they were expected to put in place, microfinance desks where you could go and query, just to raise the importance of microfinance in the financial sector. And also, lastly, we also collaborate with some microfinance institutions, with banks on financial literacy. So on Monday, for example, we are hosting a training of trainers with ANZ Bank. They have a really good model on financial literacy. And so we invite different stakeholders to nominate members that can come and get trained on financial literacy. And then as trainers, then they go back to their institutions. They offer this training to their, to their counterparts and to their communities. And these are certified training, formal training. So it's just part of the efforts that we are doing to create more financial literacy across the board in the country. So looking ahead, this is just part of what we are doing at the bank under our National Financial Inclusion Strategy. We are working to put in place an enabling regulatory framework. It's really hard to do things haphazardly unless we have like a legal framework. So that's a big target for us. An option is to look at the establishment of specialized institutions like they have in other countries, Asian countries, that specifically are mandated to serve the needs of MSMEs. In Fiji, our banks serve a broad range of customers, from large businesses to MSMEs, and sometimes what happens is the MSMEs are not prioritized, next to large corporates. So that would be the benefit of establishing specialized institutions, value chain financing programs and initiatives, and also just coming up with working with financial institutions to have suitable financial products and services that suit MSMEs. So, we see the way forward as just collaborating. We ourselves will continue to work on one of our 4 NFIS pillars of MSME finance, which focuses on identifying financial infrastructure, the legal and regulatory framework, and also collaborating with the relevant stakeholders to ensure that we achieve our MSME targets. Part of how we're doing this is establishing 4 working groups under our 4 pillars. So each working group is tasked with delivering deliverables. So we meet every quarter, and twice a year we report to a National Financial Inclusion Task Force on how we are progressing. So it's part of working together to make sure that we achieve our macro targets under our financial inclusion strategies. And I think we can all agree that we need to collaborate more closely, collaborate more, and because what we need at the end of the day are policies or measures that are relevant and timely to support our MSME sector. So, just lastly, I wanted to say at the end of everything we do, it's important to know and just remind ourselves that we need to make an impact on the ground. And so for us at the bank, I didn't delve into details, but we have programs like Nonda Ilavo, some of you may know. So Nonda Ilavo, for instance, is done in the vernacular, It's okay. And it covers various topics. So we look for topics that we feel are relevant and, subjects that people want to know more about. And we have a host that goes and meets, with participants. They have a talk show. And so I think we're in our 6th season of this. So we're doing the 6th season. And so I just wanted to finish off with a short video of a lady. She was a SPBD, 2000 recently. So she was SPBD winner. And so just reminding us that, everyone can do it as an MSME. We probably need to all collaborate. Some of us are policymakers, some of us are players on the ground. So we all need to ask the right questions and help each other so that at the end of the day, we're creating the impact that we want, in the economy. So I'll just. I'll just try and play this on the desktop.
Is everything okay?
Sorry. Can you just play it? Just play for me.
Thank you.
Play it from the.
This one, right?
Yes.
Volume up.
Yeah, volume.
Amana nga seraya kangkang panganalan kuliw may maumi hindi ka yambak no kila na diri pa mo sige ba na mbak ni roka kusu ba na diri kila nyoka kata kawara kina ndana kata kila ni bakatanga ng bangge ana bulma ko sa chikubi ko kila ni Yaruni na borni jonan raw yaruni hiwa walu akendra sawe yapa na chunga na ngono mi ko la kumikin mi mirakawa bebe ona kala matakile ona kala sando fitness kaket ke that time rongo chunga karande kanya rongo chikala na rongo bagi mikin kali ni kata kandendre na putri kita kata kabango taka kinanda timens mande minda taka kinanda ngong kina nada usah cinta minda taka berisile nambuni kabali masuk na ondo minta ka sengolenga ni nongitondo keu kali kina turang na uching kuna merosa sangta kame ndurtan mandela itu kayu minda nangon masan mandela dike sandini mereka na birimbai na may musuk ko talir na guna di kauchi ko lak tinilawe na ni tibuto ya musuk ko birimbai bater nambul mo ko miching na guna kumuha ko yung nalibang katamay na ngandun niya sa miro makin me gano makanangon na may tikin na bimaniwan na di mataki okay la kumbar na yung nangon na sacrifice take na kanati ko buti kumanaratin na bakil yan ito yaw Sengini breed binak cik nang bulu makau balik ni awal binak ketemu tiku nang bisnis nang bulu makau ngasa balik tu so balik nang tu sa binak cik ni bulu takin ko ni bulu tal misana breed binak keturun sila nang kalim tal misu korda sila nang bulu makau ngo sila cik na vakin na lima na litan tal sing ang lamba chuk na rona singa rona ngonon dana singa atak kena kabi lebisar na busudur nyon sang kalimana litan dana singa ang ngo lit chuk na busudur ngana tol sanga buka diwat na pasang kalimana dana singa ngani kabi mungkin na bisnis nga na diri pa na busud singa bakila bali matni kibla musud nga nakamanaten kay naluway tikot na sud lap na ni mimlaw na limon kimi nakangakimgi ni sotal kinala nakenda kakana dumakaw at kena sudu ni bulmakaw na kendo munu bona lugar kena weni mat kome kumi mi sotal kinandendre ni doya kana foto sa ni ndar na sa ni la balay ni mem sotal kin pa kumi gi dile kin kim sa tiya na nakenda kakan ngarin ra bikin ni ala kenen na kak bikin ni na marama ang dana marama sa si taon simkin na kampala na ito na koro na ito mga na bulan nililibat ni bisnis yan ang una kenta na ngudi kinaman dabi nakatamin na tawala kenta na rin raw sini kanta na kenta entre akira na kanya ni tawala kina na maram sini na kenta entre akira dabi nakatamin na tawala bandaran
Ibn antara ngacika ando na italno ala kasar ramai wana maram karawa tanay gudur bini SPP dia wajah bagi Saudi pembuatan yang akan boleh bikin ni sar cuma ina kami ko bang bimbi bikin ni namaram yang namanya sesama itu yang tak kena bisnis mainan tuan namaram tu ngana lo menitahun dia namamu misalnya itu yang tuan aku mau ibu sarkin yang non ital no sa pembuatan sana bimbol isar balik bikin ta yang non sar cuma kemudian nanamu juga singran yang nanamu itu yang bisnis abang kita cungur seru sing dona kai singro ni raw kakek ke dena raw ke kawale nga sala bundi no melo manta meta toyo butaka na nota bisnis kani bol tala bekenda na yala lo lega ka kanta saraba raw ya no ni tuba ni raw ka may rawata chikuna maram ni tele bongo ya no nasasa meta toyo butaki ano na dairy farm may nangone toyo kina ke no bikasa may rawata tungo ke ni seba kasam tachu te sarre ke no misato ya besar nga kanta buli nga eno bika sabar ita to bika to sirwa
Okay, thank you everyone. A quick quiz question. How many pillars does the Reserve Bank National Financial Inclusion Strategy 2022-2030 have? Huh? Think that
Two ladies in yellow.
Okay. I think the lady at the back, she put her hand up first.
Is it 4?
Yes, correct.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Change back to the slide. Oh, it's there. Finish?
Okay. Okay. So we have some time.
I get it back to your slide.
Yes, please. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer.
So is it right?
Yeah. Yes.
I haven't removed your file. Do you wish me to save it there?
Yes. You need the mic. Mic. She needs the mic.
First one is, thank you, ma'am, for the presentation. First one is just a comment, maybe, regarding your presentation. With due respect, I could next, if it comes to next time, I feel it's too technical. With a lot of jargons used, it could be a bit simplified to suit the mix that we have here. And yeah, and maybe examples as you go along each slide. Thank you. That's the first one. The second is a question. And I think I represent the majority who want to know this. Could you explain the grants or loans, the types that are available, and what are the requirements? Like for me, I haven't, my business is not up and running, but I have something up in my head to start with, but I need funding. So could you please, elaborate, explain more on the grants and the loans requirements?
Sure. Thank you. So on the first comment, thank you for that. I think that's always a challenge that we have as technocrats to try and simplify presentations when you go to audiences, like universities or even high schoolers. It's even harder. But it's a work in progress for us, and yes, we'll continue to work on that. For the grant scheme, so I mentioned that our loan facilities are set up so that we will provide subsidized lending to all approved financial lenders. So, for example, we will lend funds to the ANZ Bank, and ANZ will then on-lend those funds to the MSME, right? So the process would be you go to your financial institution, you go to your lender, you inquire with them about the MSME guarantee or any loan facility that the Reserve Bank has. So I only mentioned the guarantee scheme, but we also have other loan facilities. So if you're like medium enterprise, you can also ask about our import-export loan facility, and others. So that would be your first step, to inquire with your lender. Now, the process that the lender undertakes to assess your loan, so you would have an amount that you want to borrow, will be done according to the financial institution's internal lending guidelines. We have no control of that. No, we respect that each financial institution will assess every loan applications as per their risk guidelines. So if I am ANZ and I have 2 customers, the way I assess the applications would not be the same. You understand? So we leave it to each financial institution to make their own assessment or credit assessment of their customer, whether it be a corporate or a small business. Okay, so then they will make an application. Once that's approved, then they make an application to the Reserve Bank that they wish to access this special loan facility for their customer. And we require very minimal documentation because we understand that they've already done their due diligence. They have already internally approved. We would only want to see, for example, the loan offer to the business, that shows us, that confirms or verifies to us that the loan has been approved and has gone through the internal approval process. Yeah, so all the the information about your loan, your business will have to be discussed with your lender. Yeah, and so I don't have information on how ANZ's lending policy differs from BSP's. That's institution specific. Yeah. And the lending institution will divulge whatever information they want to. That is not that's not something we we control or we dictate from the Reserve Bank. We only lend the funds at 0.25%, and we understand that the banks are profit-making institutions. So we give them a margin, and they can lend at the maximum of 3.99%, up to 3.99%. So some businesses are getting 3.5, from the subsidized funds that we give from the Reserve Bank. I'm not sure if that's enough.
That we do not deal directly with RBF,
Yes,
but
exactly.
with the lending institutions.
Yes, we deal
Thank
with the financial institutions. Financial institutions deal with customers.
Thank you, ma'am. And my last question: what is my declaration, its origin, and its significance to Fiji? Is this has to do with my people of Mexico and Central America, or what? And its significance to Fiji. You on one of your slides, there was my declaration. I think in the fourth column, second last column.
Yeah.
I'm just interested to know what is the origin of my declaration and its significance to Fiji. Thank you.
Sorry, which slide is that? Oh, okay. Okay, what? Okay. How can I access this? Sorry. Just need to go to that slide. Which slide do you want to go down? So okay, I'll just, let me open. Sorry, I just need to access that slide. So this is regarding the Maya Declaration. Okay, so my,
You're looking for a presentation.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So the AFI, the Alliance of Financial Inclusion, they meet annually, and so we're part of the AFI network, and so at certain points, they agree on a kind of a commitment that they as members that they make. So this is one of them. In 2016, we hosted the Global Forum in Denarau. So we had put in place a Denarau Accord that added on, I believe, like agenda focus to the whole kind of financial inclusion strategy. So this is an example of that. It's basically like a commitment that members of the AFI make along with their peers, but they will apply it locally. So if it's so I mentioned here that we have to develop a framework for measuring SME contribution to GDP by 2025. So they put targets to it. So to push members to work hard to achieving that. And then when we meet annually, globally, then we share from our own working groups how we're advancing with these targets. So this is like a special commitment that the AFI members have made. So like I mentioned, in Denarau, we called it a Denarau Accord. And it's really, I think it's the countries are at liberty to make that commitment. It's not forced on us, but if you can see a target like this to advance SME, the SME development of the SME sector, it's something we would want to take on. So that's what the Maya Declaration is all about.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Wangapata. My name is Itiveni. I'm from Maduata, and as like any other indigenous or Itauke Fijian in here, we have our continuous onga. I understand that there was an app that was developed by Semi Tukana 2 years ago. It's called Sole Solevaki. In short form, it's called Sole. Could you elaborate on what RBF's take on Sole is? And what are the parameters? Do you actually govern it, or I understand it's in the sandbox stages. It's still in developing. But what's your take on it?
So
Thank
are you part of the?
No, I'm not. I read it, and I want to understand what's RBF's take on it.
So yeah, we established the regulatory sandbox some years ago to encourage fintechs in the market to come forward and allow us to kind of experiment or sort of assess this framework within like a controlled environment. So they applied to us. So Sole is one of 4 fintechs that are currently in our sandbox. So once they enter the sandbox, we give them an assessment, and then we outline parameters, which I'm not at liberty to share. Parameters, that the fintech should abide by. And then there is a flexibility, so they can. So the duration of this can go from 3 months to 6 months, and we agree with the fintechs on the appropriateness of these parameters. We like to see that these parameters are realistic. So if Sol is saying, we can do 500 customers a day, we go back and assess if that's what we think is appropriate, and we look at it also from a system point of view. Are there any risks to loading, onboarding like 500 or 1,000 customers a day? So then we give the feedback. So we agree with the fintechs what the parameters will be. Sole is still in the sandbox. They have not exited, and we are closely working with them on the exit. Yeah. So our assessment by the Reserve Bank is threefold. So one is the financial system development. That's our group. We do, assessment. We are the ones that assess the parameters. There's also the licensing assessment by our supervisors within the bank, financial supervision. So they'll have to apply to license their product. That's another part of it. And another part of it is the assessment by the financial intelligence unit on the AML, the AML framework. So that's the third part of it. So, at the end of the day, we work internally, ultimately to try and exit the fintech and then put them to market. Okay. I hope the presentation was useful, and, Reserve Bank was really happy to be here to share whatever we know and are doing in this space. And
hello, ma'am. I've got a question here.
yes,
That as you said, there was 200 million given for SMEs. Is that fund still available, or it's all gone?
I think it's closed.
I'm sorry?
That was specifically for COVID.
Yeah.
We were able to disburse, I think, over 100 million of that. I think I can confirm with you personally, but I believe the facility has now closed post-COVID.
Okay, was that for SMEs, like the existing SMEs, or for for people to create a new small business?
For new loan. It was for new lending only.
For new lending only.
And your loan is based on your turnover. So if your turnover is like up to, there are 4 categories of turnover under that scheme. So I know the maximum loan amount is, I think, 100,000. If your turnover is over 1.25 million, then there's lower amounts to that, and there's 4 loan categories altogether.
So that means it was for people to start a new business, not for the existing ones.
New loans.
No. I mean, was that loan given to businesses who were already existing, or it was given to people to start a new business?
No, if you're existing, as long as it's a new loan, it's new
But
loan.
I believe those loans were given to most of the people who start a new business and not to the existing companies.
I have to check the stats.
I'm one of the businesses who's been running for a long time.
Mhm.
I did apply for that. I wasn't given that. And there were other businesses who registered a week or two, and
Okay.
they got that loan.
Okay,
So how did that help the SMEs who were affected in COVID?
So like I said, this loan is accessed through your lender, right? So that's the process you will need to take up with your financial institution, because the approval for the loans are given by your financial institutions. We do not approve the loans.
But like, as you guys are helping for SMEs and everyone, shouldn't you guys be setting up policies that, come on, this is a set of policies we should be followed,
Mhm.
right? Shouldn't it come from you people rather than those lenders giving the policies?
No, we are set up in such a way that we can only lend to.
There was a rule that if you've got overdue repayments in 2019, you are not capable of getting the loan in 2021. How did that make sense?
Okay, I think maybe at this platform, we maybe should not discuss specific cases. We can discuss it on the.
It's a general question, ma'am. It's a general question.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's specific. I'll need to look up the case and and then I can give a response. So we can discuss afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. As a SME, I was just keen on asking that question.
Sure.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay.
This idea.
Oh. Sorry.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge Sajjasni is now here. She can finally open her tailor shop. Sajjasni. My question is on because you have already on one of your slides you mentioned that correct me if I'm wrong. Below 20,000, there are institutions such as FCOS that are supporting those who are doing MSME. And then for lender institutions, the ones are regulated under Reserve Bank, they are giving loan majority to those that's above 50,000? Or
250, I think.
250,000.
Yes.
And then you mentioned there's a big circle inside here, which requires 2.2 billion in order to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
And those inside that circle are all here. We are all here.
Including me.
Including you. Okay. So you mentioned that you have 4 task force already set in place with 5 strategies that you're planning to. 5 strategies include.
You weren't listening to her.
Those are the pillars.
Yeah.
The 4 pillars.
Strategic
4 pillars
action.
comes under one of the 5 strategies in which to bridge the gap. Is it? The last one, whereby you talk about the MDGs, SDGs. So 5, right?
Yeah.
Okay, going back there. 5 of those, what is the timeline with those 5 strategies that you come up with the 4 task force that you now have, in securing all of us here, the recipient of the 2.2 billion, we're going to get that loan or grant in somehow in order for us to move on. Okay. What is your timeline? Is it next year? Because now Mr. Mano Kamkamida speaking all on WebC and all this FKF, and he's saying we are trying to lessen down this red tape, the bottlenecks. The word he was using was bottlenecks. And bottlenecks does not only go in terms of funding or in terms of regulation, it also goes in terms of dreams. When things are stuck, some of these dreams die because, and then only few who persevere till the end manage to go through with their dreams. and the rest, those who have been stuck in this bottleneck, probably their business cost millions. When is this 2.2 billion mitigating these gaps can like available for us? Winak.
Okay, that's the final question. Eh?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we need to take the fact of this missing middle very seriously. So I agree with you, and I think just as you are part of that missing middle, I believe we're also part of the solution. I think that we all have a part to play in our own space to address that issue. I am part of a working group in the Reserve Bank that's part of AFI, that's part of the Maya Declaration. I got to do my part to push through whatever policy I believe will support and grow the MSME sector. As an MSME, you have a part to ask questions, to make submissions. The budget is coming up. Make submissions to government on your needs. Okay, so those submissions, if they're relevant, they'll go to the Ministry of Trade, and if they are, workable, doable, it'll find its way to the budget with a $sign attached to it. That then can come back to you. So I think that we all have a part to play. Policymakers, development partners, we work closely with UN agencies for funding because we don't have budget at the bank. We know the government has limited budget. So we work with development partners to access the funds that will help us conduct financial literacy training. So we have, like I said, we have a TOT on Monday for a few days. That needs money. That money is being sourced from a development partner. And we go out, the video that you watched, that required one of our officers, the host of our non-day lab, to go up to the, that farm. That required expense. He needed to, submit, a request for it. So we need development partners to come on board. We need the microfinance institutions that are established, like SPBD, the big ones, to come forward, and make their submissions. If they're part of a working group, then their voices are heard. So our financial inclusion strategy goes up to 2030. So our work is already outlined in that strategy, and all those deliverables are allocated among the four working groups, and that's our challenge right now to advance our achievement of those strategies, so that by 2029, hopefully we've achieved 90% of our deliverables. I hope that answers the question. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all. Thank you, Mrs. Wangabada, for your presentation. I believe it was enlightening to most of you all in the audience and challenging. All right. Yeah. All right, so without wasting any more time, we will go on to our next speaker, which is Mr. Minam from Fiji Development Bank. A round of applause, please.
I need to catch my breath, huh? Are we good? Oh, okay. Very good afternoon, everyone. Bula Vinaka, Namaste, and Assalamu Alaikum. My sincere apologies for coming in almost 30 seconds late because I was parking my car upstairs and the gentleman said that, no, you can't go from upstairs, you got to come from downstairs. Otherwise, I would be on time. Let me share this with you why it is important. And I deliberately did this that I'll be about 30 seconds delay in coming in here. Before I go in there, I have 1 hour, right? Okay. Uninterrupted. Okay. No power failure, nothing, right? Okay. Okay. No natural disaster or man-made disasters. Oh, very good. So, I think if I understand that this is a forum for entrepreneurial, is that right? Okay. And that basically means either we are selling or we're buying, we're looking for a job or we're interviewing and all that stuff, all of the above, right? Am I correct in saying that? Yeah. So how did you all feel when I said I walked in here that my apologies, I'm 30 seconds late? Anyone? Did you feel good? Did I feel good? What did I say before that? I said I have to catch my breath, right? The reason I did this is because you have to understand that anytime and every time when you go for a sales meeting, for your job interviews, or for an important presentation, or any engagement, it's always better to be before time. So you can walk in with confidence. You can say, good afternoon, namaste, bula, and assalamu alaikum, without starting with an apology. Apology basically means that you're already on the back foot. How many of you play cricket? I play cricket. Anyone else? Anyone knows about cricket? It's a very good game, by the way, okay? So there's a back foot and a front foot. Back foot normally is significant towards you're taking a back step. You're apologizing. You're not being aggressive. You're not being confident. But when you go on a front foot, and then, they always hear that go on a front foot, make sure that you're confident. Okay. Anyway, so that's about the 30 seconds delay spiel. So please, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. My name is Saud Abdul Minam. I belong to a place called the Republic of Fiji. A lot of people, they think that I'm not, but actually I am. I was not born here. But anyone who has any ambiguity in their mind, please, you can check my passport. I do carry a Fijian passport. But prior to Fiji, and I hope that I think that a few of you guys got my message across who are very social on the social media and active on that. Prior to that, I'm originally from Pakistan, and it's too far away from this beautiful part of the world. And I can tell you that 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, April 2013 was the first time I have ever actually entered in this beautiful part of the world. We landed in Nandi Airport in April 2013, and today is 10 years, almost 10 years. So when we were landing, and my wife happens to be sitting right beside me, and she has kicked me towards the aisle side. She wanted to sit on the window side because she wanted to see the beautiful Fiji. But guess what? She was sleeping. But anyway, we landed and I sat down and I went through the immigration. Very friendly. I think one of the friendliest immigration people in the world are Fiji immigration people. Still a Pakistani passport, but you're still very friendly. Yeah? So understand that piece. So to me, it was very overwhelming. Came out, got our luggage, sat in a taxi. And the taxi, those yellow taxis are right in front of the Nandi airport. They normally play good music. So just imagine what song was being played when I sat with my wife. Anyone can take a wild guess, just a wild guess. It's about Shah Rukh Khan, who looks like me. Nope. And Kajol, who looks like my wife. I'm giving you hints. The song was Tujhe Dekha To. Yeah. So I thought that, am I in Fiji or am I in Pakistan, in India? Where am I? Okay. I had absolutely no idea that our taxi driver could understand exactly every single thing what I was talking to my wife. I am so glad I didn't say anything bad. Anyway, the journey continues. And the next morning, we got on Holiday Inn, and I said, there are three things were very important for me at that point of time. My kids, two of them, by the way, graduated from USP. It's a beautiful organization, institution. 3 kids, and my daughter, 2 sons and one daughter, and my wife. What were the 3 more important things? That yes, a good school and a uni, which we found. And then we were looking for a mosque so we can go pray. We found that as well. Then I asked the taxi driver, I said, we Muslims have a little bit of we're finicky, okay? We are not the terrorists, but we're finicky, okay? We're finicky in a words because we need to eat certain things which are basically sacrificed in a separate way, right? We can't eat off the shelf. So I said, this is called halal. I said, is there any halal meat around here in Fiji? You know what the taxi driver said? Crest. Just imagine someone coming from different part of the world, asking for a halal food and giving you an English name called crest. Well, I actually, for me, I have to ask the question. I said, what does crest mean? He said, crest, boss, crest is a chicken, and every time when you see, if you go ask, if they say crest, you mean halal, just eat. I said, okay, thank you very much. So those three things, looked at it and we said, all right, this is going to be our home. And by the grace of God, alhamdulillah, I can proudly say that this is our home. Today at my home, I've got my beautiful wife, who is a practicing doctor at Revanga Health Center. Me, I'm the CEO of a Fiji Development Bank. Prior to that, I was with ANZ Bank, and I've done that for good about 7-8 years. 2 of my kids, they graduated from USP. One was it took a little longer. The other one did the time, shortest time for he made it up for the elder one, but that's fine. Average 4 years, that's okay. But my daughter, she is now with FNU and she is in 2nd year of medicine. I've got my mother here and I've got my mother-in-law is here. Okay, in the same roof, under the same roof, huh? So now you can understand why I do have this beautiful hairstyle, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, it comes with experience, okay? I've been married to my beautiful wife for the last 30 years, and I can tell you that they've been wonderful years of my life, okay? Why am I bringing all this stuff into today's discussion is because it's always important to understand that everything in this world which we do is associated around your family. Simple as that, okay? Whatever job which you do, whatever business whatever profession you acquire, please make sure that you keep, as in banking, we say, keep the customer in the center of everything. To me, as a professional, I said, keep the family in the center of everything. That's very important. Happy, what do you call it? Happy wife, happy life? Is that? Yeah. Why I'm saying it, I'm going to relate this to your work environment as well. Just imagine that you had a beautiful morning, you got a good breakfast, and you leave your wife at the health center, and you drive to Fiji Development Bank, and you're all pumped up. Yeah, you said a good day, you've done this, a great day, and you go home. That evening, you have a little bit of a fight, arguments. I think every couple have seen the good days and the bad days. So am I. So next morning when you walk in there, but you bring that argument into your workplace, you will not be the same what you were yesterday. So I think it's very important to make sure that whatever we do, we need to resolve these issues within the boundaries. When you come to office, and you make sure that you leave all these things behind. But when you go to home, you leave everything behind at work as well. You know, there are a lot of abbreviations have started over the period in COVID. Huh? How freely I can speak? Let me ask you this. I mean, without using the foul language, you know, but abbreviations would work, right? I think they were all adults. Okay, anyway, she's got a question mark on her face, so I'll rather not say that. And I think you all are very smart people. You will understand that. You know, during COVID-19, what were the most famous 3 letters abbreviation things started? And by the way, I'm just getting your attention, huh? And I'll start throwing some numbers, which I'll ask you later on as a quiz, and you will be rewarded for that. Okay? So please don't go to sleep. 3 letters. The most 3 letters during the COVID-19, and I'm pretty sure that every one of you know about that. Who's basically it starts with W. Not WHO. No, no, no. I'm not part of that part. Sorry. No, no, no. Yes, you're getting close to it. Yeah. Anyone? WWF? Okay, WWF. No, that's not that. www. No, that's not it. It's called WFH. Hey, big clap for them. And that led to what now in a modern era is the flexible working hours, correct? So the world has changed after COVID-19 completely. But you gotta understand that it may be good for certain parts of the world, but it may not be good for us. While I was at ANZ Bank, you know, ANZ Bank is an Australian, New Zealand bank, so as you can understand that. So we were having a COVID call, and I'll share this with you, and this is a live example, and I think everyone in this room who is from Fiji will relate from that. We had a call, and we were talking about working from home, because we wanted to make sure that, yes, people are from the office are working from home. And there were some reluctancies and some hesitation on some of the staff. Not on the male, in the male staff, but it's more on the female. So they couldn't understand that piece in Australia and in New Zealand. They said, why? So I'm going to paint a picture, which may be not the right picture, but let me go ahead and do that. An average house in Fiji will have 2 rooms or 3 rooms, 2 baths or 1 bath, 1 kitchen, husband, wife, little kid, sister-in-law, or maybe a brother-in-law, or a father-in-law, or a mother-in-law. It's a very typical sort of a living in Fiji or in mostly the developing part of the world. Okay, no, I will not put Fiji only, it's the developing part of the world. So just imagine if you're given an opportunity to work from home, and this is where I'm going to lead towards a woman one part. Male are okay. They can find in a little corner. In our societies, sometimes male are, exempted. They can sit outside while they're doing on Facebook. They will think that they will working for ANZ Bank and they'll continue to work. No one will bother them. But a woman, when she is at home, there are 1,001 expectations from women. If the kid is crying, mom has to take care of that. Sorry, mother-in-law needs a fresh chapati. So who's going to make the fresh chapati? So, while we have learned from working from home, the flexible hours, these are the things which we have to understand. What are the norms of our societies? So maybe that may be good in New Zealand or maybe good in Australia because they have 3-bedroom apartment and 1 little kid. 1 bedroom for husband and wife, 1 for the kid, and 1 is a study. right? So no one is there to bother. But in this part of the world, is a little bit of different story. Anyway, why I'm saying this is because times are changing in working environment place. There's one thing which we've seen in during the COVID, while we had the issue of the disease, but there was something else good happen. Can anyone share what good happened? Sorry, see, you got to understand that I have crossed 60, and when you cross 60, you got a hearing problem. Okay. Families spend more time together. Yep. I'm talking about the environment. What is good happen about the environment? Less energy. I'm sure the social media people who are always on Facebook or Instagram, you will see before and after. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but yes, there is some truth to it. And that's what it's talking about, the environment, the sustainability piece. So while we have to manage a little bit of what our working environment at home is going to be, but our environment as a global will basically benefit it out of the COVID-19. If you really look at it, the number of cars were less on the roads. People had a little bit more savings during COVID-19, and the reason was because they were not going and buying, I'll not take the name of the coffee shop, but spending $5, $6 only for a cup of coffee. They were not. They were not having a lunch outside for a good 15, 20 bucks. They were petrol. I'm glad that most of the organizations did not reduce the salaries. So while you've got the benefits, you've got the advantages and the disadvantages as well on that one. So this is where we all have to link somehow our jobs, our work with the environment. Now I'm going to bring you back to Fiji Development Bank, and that's what my identity is. Fiji Development Bank has been in existence for the last 55 years. Okay. We've got 11 branches and we have close to about 9,100 accounts. And out of 9,100 accounts, we have 94% of our customer base belongs to agriculture, SME, and MSMEs. What you got on the screen is a guiding principle for Fiji Development Bank. For me, for my management team, for my sales, for my operations. If you look at the second one, which talks about the de-risking of our portfolio, and we're talking about only 1 million to 5 million is a sweet spot. That's a sweet spot. What our main core business is the SME, agriculture, and MSMEs. And that's where the 94% of our customer base is. Why only 1 to 5 is because you have to understand in banking, if you book a loan for $50 million and that $50 million goes south, you have to do a write-off. Our organization does not make that much money that we will be able to write off $10, $15 million. So we do not want to go on a higher loan. We want to make sure that we continue to cater the agriculture sector, the SME and the MSMEs ones, as well as some of the middle commercial, but that's not our core business. I'll give you a little bit more details. The reason I actually wanted to put the numbers because there's some of the questions that are going to be asked about the numbers later on. Okay. How many of you feel like that you should be working for a bank? Me, I am. Anyone else? Sorry, I think I have to leave now. Okay, no one wants to work for the bank. No, seriously. Why none of you guys want to work for a bank? Want to be what? I can't hear you, sorry. You want to be what? Entrepreneurs. What do you, can you please define me what entrepreneur basically means? You want to be your own boss. Trust me, you'll never be your own boss. Never. There are 1,001 bosses everywhere. Okay? I understand what the whole concept about this is, about the starting your own business, having your own destiny in your own hand, driving your own passion, okay? Which is very good. And that's why I'm saying it, that most of the economies of the world thrive on the SMEs. We must encourage our young, old, middle, whoever wants to get into the business. But in order to get into the SME business or your entrepreneurship, you must understand that there are a lot of risk in that as well. Do you have the financial support? Do you have the financial backing? Do you have the understanding? Do you know what you're going to get into it? I'll give you one example, okay? And I'll you basically you conclude out of that. Remember that in 2021, when the government actually announced a $200 million worth of a loan for all the COVID-19 affected people in Fiji? And it was mostly meant towards the small, medium enterprises and the ones who were basically wanted to start their own business. We, Fiji Development Bank, we had about 14,000 applications coming in. And once we looked at it, about the 14,000 applications, out of that, close to about 3,000 bakery shops. 3,000 bakery shops out of 14,000 applications. Would that be a good business to go in when you have 3,000 people doing the bakery? You got, okay, what's the population of Fiji? 700, going up, 800, going up, close to 900,000 people. It's actually 890 something. We have yet to cross the 900,000 mark, you know. So some of you have to really do some work on that. And I say it very straight face, okay? So when you have 900,000 people and you've got 3,000 bakeries, do you think you're going to make money? No. So I think there's the most important part when you're going into the business, you need to understand what kind of business are you going in there. It's very easy to see that, yes, you are doing good, so I start doing that as well. And then all of a sudden, both of you are doing good, so the third person start doing that. And guess what? There's not enough market. In order to start any business and you want to be an entrepreneur, please look around you. And before you look around, you've got to understand what you're capable of, what you can do. I'll give you my personal example over here, and I want to share this with openly. I was never a good student. Okay? I'm standing here in USP. Maybe people will kick me out, but it's okay. I've been kicked out from other places as well, late at night. I was never a good student. You know why? Because I always wanted to start my own business. From 10th grade, I never studied hard. And I keep telling my dad that I want to open a shop. He asked me, what kind of shop do you want to open? I said, I want to open a stationery shop. He said, do you know how many offices are around here? I said, no. He said, go find something else to do. Then I started looking for a wholesale shop. I said, how many shops are around over here? And then I said, in a neighborhood about a 1 kilometer or 2 kilometer, you got about 8 to 9 small shops. And you have it here in Fiji as well. He said, go find something else. And I'm glad that he kept me saying these. And finally, I took his money and invested in an oil well, oil drilling. And I lost all that money because I had absolutely no idea about that sort of a business. Lucky he was alive, and he backed me and he said, now you have wasted your time, my money, you go back to school and get me a degree and do whatever the heck you want to do it after that. So I went in, I did my bachelor's in computer science. In 1985, I did my bachelor's in computer science. And my desire was to make money. As all of you guys are sitting over here, you want to make money as well as entrepreneurs. Back in 1985-86, most of you were not even born. A programmer in the United States was only getting $15,000 a year, not a month, a year salary. I said, this is not me. I'm not going to do it. Guess what? With a degree of computer science, I started selling vehicles, used cars. And that was the start of my career. I found that, yes, I can sell anything to anyone, anywhere in the world. And that became my passion. But that I could do it because I had the ability. But I couldn't do it of my own business because I have other things to worry about. I'm not discouraging any one of you. I'm telling you the facts of life when you start your businesses. It's not easy. It's just not easy. When I was in the commercial bank, we never used to pay attention to these MSMEs and SMEs because that's not our target market. When I joined Fiji Development Bank, I developed a passion for these MSMEs and SMEs. And why am I saying this? Because I've seen people struggling. Okay? I have actually seen people struggling. Just imagine if you're starting a business in January 2020 and you've had everything what you have saved, and you have everything which you have saved for the whole life, and you've put it in that business, and 23rd of March 2020, we had, I think, the first COVID case in Fiji. And guess what after that, what happened after that? So most of the most affected people in the whole country were the SMEs and the MSMEs. And I'm so glad at that point of time, government actually supported them through some of the loans. But you know, when you're starting the business, it's not only about how much money can you make and what segments which you can go. You have to always look for the bad days, rainy days, as they say. You need to find someone who can help you during that time, because that's the time when you need the support. When you're down, when you're up, everybody will come, okay, and start kissing, okay? But when you're down, no one wants to come. But you need to have certain people around you. I found it very interesting here in Fiji on a Viber group. There's called the Fiji SME Viber group, okay? And there are a lot of these new people who are coming into the businesses and they're joining that. And they're close to about 350, 360 people on that group. What I normally do, I'm a part of that as well. I keep on putting in some of the little things on that group as well from a Fiji Development Bank point of view. I think the most important part for you, all of us, as I see some young, some middle, some people of my age sitting in this room, as the education has no age limit, so as the business has no age limit. Start something which you feel you can do it. Start something which you feel that you are great in it, not good in it, because there are a lot of goods out there. You have to compete. You need to be great in that. You need to be confident about it. You need to make sure that you understand if you fall, who's going to be there to support you, or do you have the ability to bounce back on that part? Why do I say this? Because in Fiji and in most of these developing part of the world, we do have our community system, our family systems. And it becomes a burden on each other when we start something and we start losing money in that part. So I think it's very important not only to suffer yourself, but you need to make sure that people around you are not the sufferers as well because of that. Now, enough said on these things. Before I go on, I would like to have this in an interactive session. Okay. And at the same time, I'll start asking questions as well. But before I do this, something which is I'm very passionate about. There are two things. One is the financial literacy. I think it's very important for all of you sitting in this room to understand that financial literacy. It's not about, simple taking money in and giving out. Starting a business is very important. You need to understand the lingo, the language, the abbreviations, and all those things which are organizations that the banks are looking for. And to be honest with you, there is absolutely nothing wrong of not knowing it. Believe me, when I joined banking back in 1994, I had absolutely no idea what credit stands for and what debit stands for. Okay. If my chair asks me today, I still don't know what credit means and what debit means. I only know credit is in my salary in my account. Okay. That's all I know. Please, I'm going to ask them something. Profit margin. When you're starting your business, how important it is to understand your profit margin. Correct? Now, a lot of people in this room, I guarantee you that they will not know what profit margin means. Okay? Because as a banker, if a customer walks in, I'll say the first thing, cash flow and profit margin. So when you're starting business, it's not that easy. You have to do some work on that. My request to you would be, please go www.fdb.com.fj. We have a financial literacy program online, digital. Okay. You can search me inside out, upside down, hang me upside down. You'll never see a piece of paper in me because I don't believe in paper. I only believe in digital world. Go through it. There's a financial literacy